It is so great to see you again. But we were just talking beforehand. You've had a lot of great things happen, but you've also had something pretty rough happen. And as of course, a lot of people have been dealing with for the last two and a half
Mhm.
years. What's been going on in the last couple of days?
Bro, I'm in day 10 of isolation in my room. Not only myself, but my mom also got sick. So then, like, she's been isolating in her room. And, like, I live at home with my family, which makes this difficult because then everyone else becomes involved in the moment. And it's like, but at the same time, like, work and life continues for the ones that are not sick. And even, everything just keeps moving and it's hard to really to disconnect. And the fact that like you need this thing to knock you out to finally give yourself the permission to take that moment, but then you still feel like I gotta do stuff. And then, like I was saying before, it's like I got these winds of energy and then I was doing stuff. And then I, like, was fully depleted of my energy. And it's because of COVID. And it's been tough, like, just having to ask for everything. Everything is like, I miss human contact. I
Mhm.
like I just been in my room. I haven't gotten further than the washroom in my house. So I'm going a bit cray cray. But I'm also thanking my lucky stars that, it could have been worse and I've got protection. So um, I'm writing it out. But it's not cute. Stay safe, everyone. And I don't know. It's a very wild climate that we're heading into, especially in this sixth wave. And
Yeah.
the government kind of quiet. And just we're fending for ourselves right now and left to our own devices to protect ourselves. And I don't know what we're doing. I'm lost. I feel like
Yeah.
we're back at square one. And it's like, when is this going to change? I'm exhausted.
Believe me, I know exactly how you feel, and I'm so sorry this happened to you. But I'm happy it did not happen before you performing on the Lemon stage at the El Mocambo, where you just destroyed it there. What a chic, exciting experience. What was that like for you? Because I know it was like for me to watch, because truly it was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I felt amazing. Definitely. I felt like a superstar. I felt like I was doing everything that I was put on this earth to do. And, it's just been such a long time coming. I've been doing this my whole life. Like, this has been quite a journey. And still, doing the most with the least. It's like my whole outfit is a Value Village moment. That corset was like a lumbar support, like waist, moment. And it's like, and which is why things are falling off and shit, because it's makeshift. When I tell you makeshift, and it's like the day before, still running around trying to find what pieces and you know collaborating with my team and all the things that like we all juggle. Because another thing is that like this is not yet something that is like financially viable per se to support ourselves as artists. So it's like when you see that final product on stage that looks so expensive and
Yeah.
so like woohoo, it's like, just imagine if I had dollars. Like, oh my God. I just salivate at the thought of having like real money and like big budgets to be able to, like, I dream of stadium tours. Like, that's the fantasy I live. So it's like whether I'm in a baby box of a 4x4 or on a, at the Sky Dome, okay? um, it's gonna give that. It's gonna give that.
Yeah, but we got to let folks know, because you mentioned something in their story you just told, that there was a little a peak of a nipple that came out during the performance.
Yeah.
Which yes, we and what was really great was the crowd was yelling basically like, "Let's see the other two," you know.
Yeah. And that comes from experience too, on just knowing how to maneuver mishaps. Because I've also, again, when you don't have the resources, those things are so much more likely from happening. I can't tell you how many times, like, I had rented, and I'm still fighting these people to get my full money back because I rented a headset so that I could dance, because dance is an essential part of my performances, and it flopped. And everybody, every technician, God bless them, at Mocambo was like working and like trying to find out like why this piece of machinery was not doing the moment. And the sound over there is amazing. They've got all this equipment, and it's like really the best sound I had performed at ever, at the end of the day. But I had to switch over to a handheld, which wasn't ideal. I still ate it, but I hadn't even practiced with it. Like, I'm figuring out how to like juggle this now piece in my hand to choreography that I had never done that to. So, because you plan out these things to be like, so my both arms are free. But in that moment, it was like, when we saw that that mic wasn't working, it was like, make that executive decision, and you're like, well, adapt,
Amazing.
girl, adapt. Just
We
like you continue to adapt as
we
you
never
move.
noticed. We would not have known if you did not tell this story. Would never have known. We would have just thought that was what the performance was supposed to be. It's great. I love that. I love that. Um, but also, it was a little bit of an early celebration because of something that actually happened beforehand. And what was that, if you want to tell the audience, please? Because I was part of the media to hear and see this. And in fact, it was the first time you and I actually spoke. What
Mm-hmm.
was the big announcement that happened for you? And it's probably one of the biggest announcements that could happen to somebody. Like,
Oh my gosh, yes. I got nominated for the Juno for Best Dance Recording of the Year. Period. I can't tell you what that has done for my life. And just really and truly, it's a pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of my career, where it's like pre Juno nom and post Juno nom. Like, that's what it's giving, because the fact that like I've been doing this for so long, and I've had to fight a lot of you know feelings of being of feeling insignificant, feeling delusional, in that like there's no way I can achieve this.
Mhm.
Like the dream of becoming a pop star is so out of reach for so many of us. And the industry is so carefully gate kept, and it's full of nepotism. So I don't have any of that behind me. I don't have intergenerational wealth to access, nor do I have family members or even people that I know personally that are like movers and shakers and have the abilities to open up those doors and help me break these glass ceilings. So for that to like happen really out of a place where it came out of me finally being my authentic self, and like that to me was also the most affirming thing in my life, because like during that moment and that whole week of like taking it in, and the sort of initial kind of hype of it all, it was like I was reliving a lot of trauma and a lot of the moments where I thought that it was all over for me.
It's
And
it and sorry to interrupt, and because I think this is important because I was reading something, and I want to see if I can find it. I was reading something that you did in an interview, and the interview was basically saying that. Let me see if I can find the line here. Um, oh, take too long. I don't want to take too much time, but it basically said something about how you felt that in the beginning or during your career before this, you weren't being your authentic self. And it was
mm-mm.
a struggle for you to just be the artist that has become this Juno nominee. What was going on that
Less
held
than a
you?
year since her debut. Let me just put that out there too. Like less than a year of Ceréna busting into the scene. I got a Juno. I'm like, that's insane. And like for a category that is like, with other heavy hitters, and it's like, initially I didn't even like, gun for that category, because it was like, oh, this is still too unattainable or whatever. And like when I saw that there was like a, new categories that the Junos had added to be able to be more inclusive and
Mm-hmm.
to give more artists the opportunity to be seen. We initially submitted for that underground dance category, and it was the Junos that came back and was like, "Hey, we saw that you applied for this category, but we think it'd be better fit for this one." I was like, "Oh, really? Okay, Duke, sure." And then here I am.
But what was going on then
Uh,
before? What was going on?
Before I was operating under my dead name, and I like so I started officially in the music industry around 2012 when I
Mm-hmm.
had just graduated from school, and I had met the team that would then become like my management team for the next 5 years or so, lingered on for about six, and kind of finally cut all ties, excuse me, around the seventh year. And that's where I took this on my own accord. I took Canada's Music Incubator, which taught me how to be a business person, an entrepreneur. Like that completely gave me the tools, and it was also very affirming, that process, because there were so many things that I knew to be true, yet I was constantly being gaslit into believing that it wasn't. And because again, it's like I always knew that I was not going to succeed if I wasn't authentic to myself, because people can read inauthenticity. Do you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so I never felt comfortable in my skin, but yet the narrative was that I could be myself once I made it to a certain level. And I don't I don't blame them either, because that is also just a trajectory. If you want to look historically at queer artists that are queer and out and about now, they all had to blow up and have a moment before they came out and said, "Hey, I'm queer." When I started in 2012, Sam Smith wasn't around yet. And Sam Smith, at that point, when they first were coming out, there was no talk about their sexuality or their gender. And it wasn't until after, once they were now the Sam Smith, the Grammy Award winning, and then that video Stay With Me came out. And then that was the first time that we saw the alluding that there was a queer storyline. And then it was like, yes, I'm a queer person. So because of that fact that no one has ever come off the bat as a queer person, let alone as a trans woman, that was just not going to be a viable route, and that my queerness was ultimately a liability to my success, which now we know is not true. But
Mm-hmm.
also I recognize too, like, this is the time, like this is my time, for the fact that where we are in terms of the political landscape, the social landscape, and how, like, this is the first generation in since colonization that actually has a big chunk of us in this world championing and wanting to see queer and trans people succeed and thrive. And so now we finally have this opportunity to that, because we have people supporting us when that hasn't happened in previous years. Even the conversation around trans is 5 years ago is so different to where it is now. And that has only happened because of everything that we've gone through together. The internet that has allowed to connect us all and have these conversations, and more visibility of trans people thriving and being happy and just living their lives. It's like, I'm not as obsessed with gender the way that our naysayers are, that are so obsessed with our bodies. You know what I mean? And it's like, so for me, it was so important. And like an artist like Sophie, rest in peace, who was a trans woman and was doing the gig and was on their way to finally break that mainstream. um Seeing people just like do stuff and be happy gave me the courage to do stuff and be happy as myself, because at the end of the day, I'm the one in this flesh and bones. You know what I mean? Like, this is my body. I'm the one that has to experience this every single breathing moment that I'm alive. So why am I letting anyone else dictate that? How dare you? Like, are you my cells? No. So therefore, you can take a seat.
You created an organization too, didn't you?
Yes, Asset Inc.
What is that exactly?
Um, so Asset Inc. is an arts and entertainment company that I founded, and I incorporated, and it basically is a company that That's like, it's beyond reform, you know, it's
I'm
working
gonna
exactly.
let me stop you there because we froze for about 10 seconds.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna do a three, two, one, and then I'm gonna ask the question again.
So,
Here we go. Coming down in three, two, one. Now you created an organization too, didn't you?
mm-hmm.
What
As
is it?
it's called Asa Inc. And the it's I will mention too, like, it's acronym, but I used, when I initially created it, Ceréna wasn't around yet, and I had used my dead name to create it. So then I had to get creative in the branding of it and just use the letters, which will then become something when I can afford to change the name legally. Do you know what I mean? Because all these
Mhm.
things are processes. But at the end of the day, it's an arts and entertainment company that focuses on creative freedom, creative integrity, and seeks to put an end to artist exploitation and the bastardization of entertainment to control the masses. It's like, through my experience of maneuvering in this body and in this industry, I have learned so much. And one of the things that I really learned is that, like, that seat at that table that I've been gunning for so long is actually a table I don't want to sit at, you know? And this industry is not, it doesn't serve so many of us. And it's so gate kept and it's so controlled and manipulated, especially in this country. And so I've kind of had to really take that in and understand that I have no choice but to be a trailblazer. Because I, just in my community, I'm surrounded by stars, but people don't see that yet. And that to me bothers me. And that's why, like, for me, even with everyone that I work with, it's like, it's my community, you know? And it's just a passion of mine, importance to uplift artists. And like, we can't live in this world without our work, our artistry, our music, our TV, our movies, all of our entertainment. Yet we are so undervalued, you know? Being an artist and being in the business is, you know, going onto any kind of productivity app or any kind of like entrepreneurial app and seeing that you have to click other because your industry isn't even recognized, bro. And it's like, it's just that so telling. And then there's a small pie that goes around to a small select group of people, and then we create this industry where everyone has to fend for themselves and fight each other and hoard the resources, because again, there isn't much to go around. And it just shouldn't be like that, because we in this city have magic, and the experiences that this city breeds through people coming from all over the world, and all these different experiences and brains together in this geographical space is recipe for incredible art, and it needs to be seen.
Well, you are definitely doing that with your music. So let's get to that Juno nomination. What is that recording actually called that you're nominated for? What is it based on? How does it represent your career now?
Mm-hmm. The song is called C, and it was basically reproduced, reimagined by a producer in Sweden named Carl Lund. And I found him on SoundCloud kind of moment, and we just kind of been teaming up, and he's been so amazing. He also produced Hearts on Fire, so 2 tracks on my debut album Resurrection were produced by him, and then he also mixed the entire album as well. He's a mixing engineer out there. And um, the song, I first released it as an acoustic, you know, of just me on the piano singing it. And I recorded it at CMI. It was like the final project piece, whatever. And the original song is called Resilience. That's where resilience and patience is key. And I wrote it in the depths of depression, you know, of trudging through, you know, like what I was saying earlier, fighting delusion, fighting depression, fighting anxiety, and all these things that were telling me that, like, you know, I can't do this, that this is out of my reach. But it just kind of came to me, and I wrote these words to boost myself up, build myself up, say, sis, like, if only you could see what I see. Come on, you've gone so far, you made it through the winter, like, come on, wake up, like you can do this. And fast forward to now, it became this like uplifting, house track that it was a highlight of the album. Everyone that had listened to the album, that was all like their favorite, and they were like, this needs to be a single, this needs to be a single. And so we created a music video with the Kids Generation, a queer and trans led production company. I got to do it with my Kiki House of Siriano family, and experience that moment, with them. And now look at us.
Yeah, but we want to know what you're going to be looking like when you get to the Juno red carpet and awards. What
You
are the
have
plans?
you have no idea what it's about to give. I am so excited because I will be the most overdressed. It's like we as a country and as an industry, we don't big ourselves up the way that we should. This is our Grammys, yet we treat it like a Teen Choice Awards. Like, why are people showing up in jeans and a t-shirt? Like, why are you showing up like it's a barbecue? Like, no, where is the lux? Where is the, come on, let's give that, because we can. So bars will be raised that night.
Now, we have Resurrection. What's happening in the future for more music releases? Are we working on that right now? Are we going to have that
Yes.
towards the end of 2022?
Yes, currently working on your music. Timing really depends on money, funding.
Of course.
I have relied on grants to be able to do what I need to do. It's like Factor. I got that Factor grant that allowed me to create this album and this whole round and the music videos and stuff like that. So I received another grant and I didn't receive another Factor grant. So I now have to pivot and kind of think, because this next project, I really want to work with producers, people, like really, again, continue to amplify the community. I had to learn how to produce. And like, before Resurrection happened, and it happened because of this pandemic and the situation, right? So it's like, I needed to make music. I couldn't be anymore in these spaces. So then I had to figure it out on Logic. And I was like, well, I have a computer. I can connect it to my piano, and like, let's try to do this thing. And like 80% of that album is produced solely by me, right? And I don't want to do it alone this time. I want to be able to collaborate with a producer for each song. That's kind of the dream. But that means that more money needs to be involved, because then when people are involved, then you gotta pay the girls, and it's like, that's another thing, is to be able to pay and provide my community. But even then I say that, it's like, well, I still am not making any money, but at least I'm still like putting through, and I keep, trusting. It's like, God has it for me. It's coming. It's coming. So I just gotta keep being patient. Resilient and patience is key. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm planning at. And I'm toying with the idea of premiering a new song at my Pride performance. I'll be performing on the Young and Dundas stage on the 25th. And with Club Quarantine, which is the nonprofit organization that I co-founded with a few friends during the panini, the first time lockdown. We were throwing parties every night, every day, 2 parties on Saturday, because we were hitting different time zones, because our community really like expanded and became global. And that also became such an influence in the work that I do, in even the music that I make, and also my identity as a trans person. Because like, when that started, like, Ceréna didn't exist yet, or she's always been there, but didn't recognize it yet. And then once like things kind of simmered down with Club Quarantine, and then finally I had that chance to now be in isolation and alone in my feelings, I realized, I was like, whoa, 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 what is this? We need to address this. And then I made that choice to start my transition and change my name. And the community of Club Quarantine and all the sounds and of the club, like, inspired me. And that's why I seek out to make experimental dance pop music, dance music, because we need to dance.
Yes.
and all the different sounds and influences of the club, which for us is our safe space. That's our church. So it's like, I want to be able to bring that to everyone.
As we wrap this up, there are people out there who are still not comfortable within themselves. What advice can you give them so that they can blossom and become who they truly are?
Oh, this is a hard question because of the fact that it really depends where you are geographically. You know, there are some
Really?
nightmarish places to
Oh, of
be
course.
queer or
Yes.
trans, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, it's like, I'm not going to, criticize anyone for choosing safety over being themselves, because that's unfortunately a lot of that really is that bridge, right? So you're kind of maneuvering through, okay, how much safety am I willing to lose for my happiness? And that's unfortunately the questions that we have to ask ourselves, because I personally, I knew that I was now calling more attention to myself just because. And it was like, that was something that was critiqued, by the people that don't get what this is, as if I was out here begging to be seen. It's like, no, I'm just living my regular schmegular life, just my best life, like every other girl out here. But it's just that I read differently just because of this body that I'm in. And I had to make that decision where I was going to prioritize my happiness over it all. And no regrets, bro. No regrets. Really and truly, I didn't know life could be this good. I didn't know I could feel this comfortable in my skin. I didn't know I could feel sexy actually from within, and not it be a front when I was performing masculinity for the world. It's like, he was cute, like he could get it, but that just wasn't me. And I was forced to play that game and perform that because of what? A body part? Mm-mm.
You are absolutely the best.
Oh my God, thank
Congratulations
you.
on your Juno nomination. Congratulations on the great performance you did on the Lemon stage at the El Mocambo. Congratulations on your journey. And I am so happy now that I get to help chronicle it, because I know we're going to be doing more interviews, more music, more stories. And I'm so looking forward to seeing what each chapter has for us in your story. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This was so great. Thank you for taking the time to learn about me.